pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda's approved. No patron comments. No patron comments tonight. Approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are to recognitions. We got VHS football.
All right, good evening. I'm going to get a little assistance this evening from Mr. Dreyer. It's always great when we can recognize our student athletes for not only their performance on the field, but also off the field. So, Mr. Dreyer, appreciate your help this evening.
No problem. All right, so we've got a couple football players to recognize tonight. First, for Academic All-State. We're going to call these guys up here. We'll just go ahead and grab your certificate, and we'll just stand right over there underneath those pictures. First, for Academic All-State, we have Alex Hayden. Next, I don't believe he's with us, but we have Barrett Wheeler. And next up, we have Wesley Falk. To make Academic All-State, I kind of wanted to stand it up there. To make Academic All-State, the following nominations are, they must meet the following criteria. First, the player must have been nominated by their head coach, who was a member of the Coaches Association. The player must have been a starter in at least 70% of the games, and the player must have been a sophomore, junior, or senior. Then they must meet 2 of the 3 of the following criteria. They must have a score of a 25 or higher on their ACT, or a 1220 on their ACT. They must have a 3.5 GPA or higher, or rank in the top 20% of their class. So Alex, Wes, and Barrett met all of those qualifications. So let's see if we can give them a round of applause. Next up, we have one more football player we would like to recognize, and that is Drew Leichel. Alrighty, Drew qualified for being recognized by the board this evening because he made the All-State team, 3rd team, as a tight end. So congratulations, Drew. Any parents want a quick picture?
All right, gentlemen, I feel like it's the last time we get to do this. And I'm not even crying. I didn't even cry, Kelly.
Thank you, guys.
Our next recognition, he could not make it tonight either. I wanted to recognize Coach Jerry Fulton. He is retired from the boys soccer program, but I wanted to recognize him because since we started the soccer boys program in 2008, he has been our only head coach for the last 18 years, and he finally hung it up this year after the season, taking the team to the state tournament, getting a 3rd place finish. He also, over those years, 12 of those 18 years, he was also the head coach of the girls program. Overall, Coach Fulton amassed a total record of 479 wins, 193 losses, and 7 ties for over a 70% winning percentage as a head coach with our soccer programs. He had 16 conference championships, 10 district championships, 5 trips to the Final Four, winning 1st place in 2014, getting 2nd place twice, getting 3rd place once, and 4th place once. He was the Conference Coach of the Year 13 different times, the All-Region Coach of the Year 10 times, the Dream Team Coach of the Year 9 times, and the Class 2 coach in the state of Missouri 3 different times. So I just wanted to recognize him for those accomplishments.
Okay, moving on to new business. Need to schedule a roll call vote, closed session to discuss student and personnel matters as permitted by revised Missouri statute 610.21, 3, 6, 13, and 14 at the conclusion of open session.
Second.
Kevin?
Aye.
Lennon? Nancy? Aye. Alice? Terry? Jamie?
Aye.
Dominic?
Next up is the 26-27 school calendar.
Will not be able to get colleagues to work from us. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, we had 2 calendar options sent out to the calendar committee. Received feedback on those, and the vote was for calendar option number 1. It meets the DESE minimum number of hour requirements. It has the 60-hour weather makeup requirement built in for a total hour of attendance for the next school year of 1146.4 hours. Very similar to the calendar that we've had for the past couple of years. No major changes. We did ask if there would be a teacher that would want to come present it. Good.
Not so much.
Not so much, so there was just not a whole lot of discussion. We're pretty locked in.
Any
There's not a
discussion?
lot of options.
Any discussion on the calendar?
Make a motion to approve the Perry County School District's 32 calendar for the 26-27 school year.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have a calendar. Now we need the ballot language resolution. Do we,
We have to come up with a
I guess
proper
this
name.
is our opportunity to discuss the name of it. I think the language is going to say the same as last week.
It looks the same.
Any suggestions on the name of this?
Mr. Schaefer, you got anything?
I really still like the Prop Kids. I think it worked very well before. I think the thought when you kind of delineated out what the acronym stood for when I first went through it, I think that still fits what we're doing today. And people already have an emotional connection to what we're trying to do here.
And the acronym, just so if you don't know, the acronym for Prop Kids, the kids was Keep Improving District Schools. So that's what the kids part of that stood for when we did it in 2017.
Can it be Prop Kids again, Mike?
Yes.
Yes.
What about 2? Probably is 2.
And I think we're calling attention to
The fact that we have 2.
the fact that we have to.
Everybody good with Prop Kids?
Yep.
I think she put it on. She put it on. Right.
Some of those are really fast text. Can we make a motion for the resolution and just include the name in the resolution?
Yes,
I'll try. Make a motion to approve the resolution calling for for an election on the question of whether to increase the operating tax levy for Perry County District 32, known as Prop Kids. I have no idea, or Proposition Kids. No idea.
That work for you?
Not in English.
Julie's got that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. We have ballot language. Now we need to talk about the adjustment of the construction management contract.
Sorry. Red mic. Okay. So the construction management contract amendment would allow us to move from a construction management advisor to a construction management at-risk specific to the temporary metal building project according to the scope that would be designated in that contract amendment. So this is designated specific to the building, the metal building construction project.
And you talked to Mr.
Mickus.
Mickus. So Tom Mickus worked with Brock Miller's legal counsel, and the two of them worked together to make the amendment language on that contract to allow Brock Miller to operate as construction manager at risk on only this metal building under this scope.
And by doing it for just this metal building, we can do it without an RFP, so we can go quicker into getting that underway.
Under the emergencies clauses, yes. But it would behoove the district to move forward with going for an RFP for a construction manager at risk as we move forward now that we have a ballot.
Into the project.
Into the new building. So that would involve that whole
Would
process.
you do that prior to getting the levy passed?
Yes,
Okay. Because one way or another, you gotta build something,
yes,
so that's an RFQ.
yes.
All right.
I make a motion to approve the construction management contract amendment with Brock Miller Construction as presented.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now we're to the music insurance settlement. Back, John.
Good evening. I return. So, this is a follow-up to our meeting that we had in closed session December 10th. And I have to choose my words wisely because there is in the release for the global settlement, there is an NDA clause. So we can't talk specifics about the settlement. But I can tell you, it is what we spoke about verbatim on the 10th of December. So 15 markets responded. Took a little bit longer. I think with the holidays, typically with insurance companies, that's what happens. So 15 markets responded to approve the agreement, the release, the global settlement. I talked to Tom Mickus yesterday. He has reviewed the release and the global settlement, reviewed and approved. It's really all I can say in regards to that, but the numbers are what we spoke about on December 10th.
Is Ms. Mitkus an attorney or advisor? Are we gonna be able to share with the public, the balance of what we have cash according to that non-disclosure agreement?
I'd probably run that by district council before we do that.
It'd be good to share with the public what after all of our, after we've spent this amount, we're gonna
I
have an
think that
amount
would be
left
two
over.
different things, though. I mean, that'd be two different, what you're working with is the amount that we're receiving from the total amount, the settlement amount.
Total amount,
Well, anytime I hear non-disclosure, some people take that very seriously. So, I agree, I don't think it should be a problem letting the public know what cash we have out of those spendings. But can we make sure that that doesn't violate what music has us disclosing?
Yes, sir.
Show good faith to the public.
So in the motion, we'll leave out the amount.
Is that standard procedure, an NDA on an insurance settlement?
that was not my idea, nor the board's recommendation for me to do that. This is something that the Americans wanted. So it wasn't me making it up and me presenting it. But they wanted it.
But is that common?
It is common.
What's the motivation behind it?
That this is between the 15 markets, music, and PCSD. I'm not saying I agree with it, disagree. It's just something that was written in the release.
Is it a killer if it's not in there?
We're gonna go back to 15 markets. I think there's ways you can talk about things, and I would take the advice of the attorney, that I think you can talk your way through it without coming out and saying, this is what the release says. You can do it a different way. But I want the recommendations of town.
It says in here, this agreement and/or its terms may be disclosed.
As you go through it, Dominic, a little bit more,
I'm still rereading.
yeah, it mentions NDA,
Okay,
and I confirmed that with Tom.
okay. Yeah, well, we need to go through that with Tom before we do
As I expressed December 10th, I think this puts you in a great position to move the district forward. And I was happy with the outcome.
Any questions for John?
No, I think we really appreciate having you and working and getting this, because I know it wasn't an easy job. And I think if, we're lucky to have you, and we're lucky to get this settlement, because for a while, it wasn't looking like we were making much ground. So thank you.
I didn't make many friends.
I would imagine you don't.
I don't think you want them guys as friends,
Yeah, I'm okay with that though. So I will tell you, in terms of release of funds, they had mentioned as early as Friday. I would actually say probably a week from Friday.
We need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the global insurance settlement with music in the amount of
Oh, no, because of the NDA.
as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So I appreciate working for the PCSD. It was a great experience. Hopefully I did make some friends on this side.
But it was a great opportunity, and this is where I can sit back a little bit now and look to see where you guys are going in the future, which is a good experience from my end. I just like to see where districts go and what they keep the same, what they change, so I'll be interested to keep a lookout. I'll still be around because I'll probably help with the FEMA and get them information that I have, so they can do their job and get additional monies from FEMA.
Thank you for your help.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem. Thank you.
Okay,
Now, wouldn't we be able to then report what has been spent out of it, and how much is left?
Kevin, I would think so, but I think that's a question that we run by Mickus and just say, here's the settlement, you looked at the contract, what all can I disclose? What can I tell people?
Right, I guess I was
Of what we
suggesting
spent.
something to ask you.
Sure, okay.
I would say, I mean, just reading it, I would say, okay.
You could give what's spent and how much is left, you don't have to say what the starting figure was.
Well,
Yeah, that's
I
kind of
think
what
you
I
can
was-
even give the starting, I mean, my.
We can even just give
I'm
what's
a lawyer.
left.
Use the word.
Here's the amount that we have to put towards the high school.
My opinion based on reading. I think it's other stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna see it
It
anyway.
was 15 hard.
It was like,
It'll be there.
What's being cut in
So if you want me on that call with Tom, I can do
the
that.
numbers. Okay. Thanks, John.
if she hears back from, when we hear back from Mickus, I'll spread the word. Storm recovery update.
I'm sorry, we're having all kinds of technical issues. We're gonna switch over, Rachel, to Mr. Telcher's computer now.
I kind of would change it when I read it out.
They don't want all their settlement
Yeah,
just floating around.
that's what I'm
out
saying, I
there.
think the numbers will be fine.
I mean, you're in the insurance industry, you probably have someone common or.
Well, how many are listed there? They might not all care, but some of them care about their settlements just floating around out there. I would assume.
Okay.
I don't think they're gonna be too,
We're gonna follow up on it.
you never know, but
You're up.
Oh, okay, great. I'm kind of float around here to the laptop, if you don't
Sure.
mind. So I won't take a whole lot of your time. So for some of you, you've probably seen this and then probably more recently, but I'll just kind of keep it high level, what we're kind of doing. First off, we're continuing to work with FEMA, trying to get them information for those operations on that side of things. We're continuing to work on this pre-engineered metal building project, advance those documents. Toth and Associates is doing the surveying on the campus. We've got the first batch of the survey data that we need, and it's revolving around that stadium area. We outlined 4 quadrants of information that we need to do the rest of this bond issue. So they've got that first piece done. We should be getting the second piece of it, I think, this week, at the end of this week. And then about the other 2 sections will be Friday after that. So we're trying to get after a lot of information about the campus in a much deeper detail, so that we can, when we're playing around with floor plans and we're looking at elevations, and we know precisely what's adjacent to it. So those activities are going on as well. We're continuing to have our meetings with the steering committee and the building committee. We do those every other week, so Wednesday and Thursday, so we're continuing to do those. moving forward. Right now, we're preparing for the community forum on this Saturday at 10 o'clock over at the Robinson Center. So we're trying to work our way through that presentation. We're gonna have a little handout, flyer that could be a take-home for everybody that's there. We're gonna have boards, printed out boards, they'll be there off to the side. It'll be very similar to the first community forum we went to that. So it'll be more of a presentation from the stage. There will be multiple folks involved in that. I'll be there representing SAP Design. Justin Roth will also be there from SAP Design. Some of you probably met him before. So we'll be presenting our portions of that presentation. But we'll have the boards off to the side. The intent is that once we kind of give them the overview of what we want to share with them about getting out there and supporting the school, they can meet us down here off to the side if they want to drill into some of the deeper details on things. So we've got those things going, and like I said, the presentation we're still working on. I can show you real quick. I can give you a crash course on where we're at. So, we started off, this is a development off of what we call the Quad 2.0 version. And what it's all about is we've got some great energy already up here between the old senior high in front of the high school and this area, and it's actually will extend back along the back side, which will actually be the front side of this over here. So try to create these quads in here. So piece up there, that's a really front facing piece. You can see we got a performing arts grouping up here. Main administration is there. So this is kind of your entrance. We got the Power Plaza there. We want to celebrate it, and that has just a fantastic vantage point when you arrive there, looking down over the fields and out and across your campus. And we really want to make sure we can accentuate that and not build building in the way. We actually use building to kind of frame those views. So we got this quad area up here. We also want to develop one out here. So between the field and the library component, that is at the second level. So we want to develop that. There's some things with this engineered building. We're still trying to make sure it can fit over here. So we're doing that. We got all that data, not from Toast Associates, but create this energy all around this piece right here. There'll be athletics and activities entrance down here at this point, so there'll be somewhat of a quad or plaza place at that point as well. The athletics pieces and activities pieces are down here, so you can see that gym. That is a double-sized gym, and we've got a placeholder for this auxiliary gym sometime in the future, so that we can expand on that. But there's a great synergy being developed here with these types of facilities, with the types of similar facilities you have for middle school. So we really think this is going to help on those heavy days where you've got tournaments, tournament play. You can have that. You can isolate those activities to this portion of the building simultaneously. You could have something else going on up here, and then in that Performing Arts Center space, it really is going to be multifunctional space. So we're talking about having a lot of that flat floor, so you can have like a dinner theater. It's multi-use. There will be some tiered seating as well. But by zoning this building, we can have that element up there, this element down here, completely kind of on their own. They all kind of meet together in this middle, but really this all belongs to the academic side. The real core of the academics is here, and then all of these elements feed into and off of that. We're trying to create that really strong, really simple, really intuitive pathway through the building. And then also this piece here, this wing right here, we're proposing that would stay. So that's an existing portion of your building. To give you some bearing, that library element is right in here. We do know there's maybe some impact on this wall, but we still feel confident that this building, we can refurbish that building and bring it into the overall design for this. There'll be a kind of a sister addition on this side, creating those things. There's lots of opportunities along here, the commons area, some two-story volumes, some of the spaces similar to what you have in middle school. You've got that great space right in the middle of that area. Then the cafeteria, trying to expand that middle school cafeteria down in this area. The kitchen would still remain here. The service area would come around here to this side. This is showing a locker room, support facilities for that gym. This may be a candidate for being hardened space as well. We're working with Brock Miller to work through material types, use of precast concrete. So those make great. They go up relatively quick. There's a lead time, but they go up quick and they're durable. So we think some parts of this building are going to be really ideally suited for those. And then when you do that, and it's not that much of a step further to go ahead and make that lid hardened. And that could be something that we could potentially put into this zone here. So that's kind of the lay of the land on those. So if you start to look at it this way, in the foreground here, you can, this is your middle school here, down here, middle school, that's that gym. Yeah, there's the new gym, there's that locker we were just talking about. This spine that's gonna run up through this way, at Commons. This is that existing building. Right now, we're gonna be looking at revamping this elevation, because when you go out there today, you don't see all these. You see some louvers in the wall, that those were to help with the ventilation system that we have. So we really do want to try to transform this facade. Circulation is always important. Pretty much all of the circulation elements will be rebuilding those to be new. There's a lot of challenges with your current stairs and things of that nature, either the position of them or the kind of the layout and the construction of them. They're just not up to today's standards. And we have a great opportunity to kind of get the stair out of the way. So when you're in that hallway, you come out of those classrooms and you're in that collaborative spaces, you can actually see through there and actually see and get your bearings and know where you're at. You have kind of a view out in both directions. So, but then you come around here, this is that commons area, the high school. Again, we've got these great pause moments between here. We're going to activate these. This is the cafeteria down here. There's an outdoor opportunity here. This is that PAC facility, as I was talking about. This is really that front. Probably going long. So this is kind of back to the other side. You can see this over here, that entrance right here for the athletics. This whole stretch right here really needs to be developed into an entrance type of a plaza there. So trying to preserve as much of this lot as we can. We start to look at some of this imagery here. This is actually the entry piece down at this big structure here off to the left. That's the gym right there. So this is that kind of gym entrance here. So we want also that to support the activities and the needs out here on this lot and for that football field. This is that academic piece, the transparency. There's lots of opportunities for branding and school pride to be put on display. We can talk about these things here. I'll get to that maybe in a second. We'll get to the next few. So then now we're up on the upper football field. This is the new classroom area with the circulation. We wanted to try to start to build some geometry into the shape of this building along here. This is really the terminus of the football complex there. Outdoor, it'll be soccer as well. We're looking at doing soccer there. But utilizing, this is the library element. And, we have to control light. We're putting windows in these buildings. We really have to control that light. So, light uncontrolled is not good. So we have opportunities to incorporate, some kind of shading structures through here that as the sun moves around the sky, we can associate the windows. But you can really see kind of a really interesting pattern across there. They kind of maybe look like sails. It just kind of looks like a ship, we kind of start to shape those pieces there. This is the PAC piece, so we've got an opportunity to elevate that. So we're going to continue to work to shape that, and these things would be also reinforced as you go into this building and how we can play with it and really build on that theme. This is up around the top. This is the Pirate Plaza over in this area, the front, looking out. This is the football field. You kind of worry yourself. This one really can't probably appreciate it with the lighting we have right now, but provide that top on that front of that. This is a really good chance to
about it, I think. What was I saying? These are just some of the boards that we're preparing for the community meeting this weekend, on Saturday, so, little plans up there, so. We're really working through it, as you know, this plan's probably a good active example of all of that. So there's a bit of challenges with, working with the building that's, building this on the side of the hill. So that's, it's fun though, great opportunities. We've really changed the inside of these buildings and make them much more dynamic, so. That's it, I think, I don't know what else to tell you. Every day we're just kind of plowing forward, pushing things, because we know time is of the essence. You know, we want to get through this. We want to be able to refine these documents, you know, so, because we know after this community forum, now that you've taken official action on the other part of it, you know, we're going to need to get this stuff pushed out. So we'll be working, trying to get it, at least try to facilitate a capital campaign committee to help with this as well, try to push information out. We're going to try to provide whatever documentation we can to support their efforts.
Would you be available to help us with that scope as far as the language for the construction management at risk and that RFP?
Yeah, absolutely, we can do that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done that multiple times. That is a great thing that you all are pursuing. We really would like to get that entity on board so that we're working in tandem with them with the design. You know, we've talked about some precast elements. And we're working through systems and things in our heads just based on experience, but we want to make sure we bring that constructor on board as quickly as we can to start to get their lives laid out. There's going to be a big task for us that we're working on, but I mean, we got to really drill into the weeds here pretty quick, is phasing. So as like I said, we're going to be saving portions of this. We want to be good stewards of the facilities that we can save. But at the same time, that brings complexity to building what we can tear down and the phase of building new. And we understand we still have to have school all around this at the same time. Cafeteria open, so the cafeteria and those things will stay. The area currently where the band and choir rooms are, that portion will stay as well. So it might be repurposed, but it'll stay. So, and because those are stacked up on top of one another. So we're working through the details as much as we can, and then also it's just kind of high level on the design.
So, I know with Prop Kids in 2017, we also had on there about we would bring the security updates. Could we maybe put that somewhere? Because I think that's important that we don't lose focus about, we want to keep our staff and our kids safe. So if we could maybe, you know, you have that list of new, but maybe at the end make a statement about security updates for all the buildings as well. I mean,
Yeah, that'd be great. I know we had a safer school on there, but there's a lot of things that back in the 56 and 60s and 70s, that so on, that just wasn't set up that way. Like today, you know, we want to make sure we're paying attention to those active shooter types of situations, and how buildings can be controlled, segregated when we want them to be, and they need to be. Again, and use of windows and glass, we talk a lot about that. We have to be strategic about it. So that's great. Yeah, we can point that out about the safety for sure. And then just the general, again, just cleaning up circulation through this building will help a lot with security. So it just it helps kids navigate. It reduces stress. I think it just keeps a lot of those things, those kind of smaller things, from cropping up. So yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'll try to make a point of mentioning that, touch on that.
Stephen, all the things you showed us tonight, are there any contingencies based on FEMA?
There are going to be, I mean, we talked a little bit about the auxiliary gym, the Performing Arts Center piece. We had a range on the Performing Arts piece that could go one way or the other. We're going to try to keep some of those facilities back in the old portion of the building and try to make that, minimize that piece, get us what we need out of that piece. But otherwise, we will look at opportunities for things to be bid alternate. There's going to be other work outside of the building there's other things outside of this building, and we can identify some of those scopes to say, well, maybe if we can't do that day one, we can do it in a second phase, so.
Well, if I'm a voter, I kind of lean towards them thinking that the 41 cents purchases all of this. That you just showed us.
Right.
How do we communicate that? Because voters also have good memories when we make commitments.
Sure.
And it kind of feels like we're committing to all of this. But there are some contingencies based on FEMA funding.
Right.
So we have to be upfront about that.
Yeah, I hear you.
So what portions are contingent based on those FEMA funds coming back to us in the reimbursement?
Yeah, I'll dig into those things, I'll make sure I'm,
Well, this is Saturday.
yeah, I understand.
I take
I mean,
it
our
very
goal-
seriously because we're making commitments to a voter on
Yeah.
Saturday.
But there are other.
I know things change,
Yeah.
but we need to show what 41 cents is purchasing and then what is
Right.
contingent or
Right.
based on getting those FEMA reimbursements. Because that's a reimbursement process,
Sure,
and it may be a year or two down the road,
right,
or longer,
right.
before we get that. I guess I'm thinking about
Yeah, I need
future
to-
trust.
I need to look at the stadium improvements and the scope of that work right there, and I need to see if that's inside or outside of the envelope. We've got the plan, kind of master plan for that, but we haven't started talking about, we're not talking about putting synthetic turf in, we're talking about home side bleachers, visitor side bleachers.
I think that slide that you had, whatever, a few weeks ago on Thursday, that showed the project,
Yeah,
and then it actually showed where you put the projected FEMA money in, and that paid for this bottom half. I think that slide or that equation,
right, where we had a couple of those things identified as a phase two, yeah. Yeah, that's.
I think that was
the slide you're talking
a
about.
nice,
Right,
a good visual, but we can't really
Put
project
those
FEMA.
numbers on there.
yeah, I understand that diagram, that chart. Okay. I'm sorry, I don't have that.
Even though we're not sure about the
Well, I
numbers,
worry
I
about
think
that.
it's still a
Pardon?
good visual.
I worry about that.
Yeah,
Well,
I hear you.
that's
The
what
way
I
it's
said. I think
presented
that
is
slide
41
made it
cents
a
is
little
buying
easier
all
for me
this.
Yeah, we need to make sure we're real clear about what the
Even
graphics,
if-
and so we're not
Even
putting
if the
something on
numbers
there
aren't
that is not
Yeah, and we know they won't be.
part of it.
Right, yeah. Pretty sure.
Till you get bids,
I mean, how does the board feel? Do we feel like we're committing all to all of this for 41 cents?
I think it does present that way. If you don't break out FEMA money will be going to this and this, makes it seem like the 41 cents will buy it all. I think it's just about educating them in the process though too.
I agree.
Maybe our first step is our academics and getting our kids back in classrooms, and then once we get, if we get FEMA money, then we move on from there, but I mean,
I think that'll go a long way for the voter if you can show a phase of the project that shows instructional areas as a priority.
Right.
And that's where you're gonna see stuff develop first. And you can work in, you can identify those other projects that are contingent on FEMA funding as later projects. But I guess I envision showing, and I'm not saying this has to be done by Saturday, but showing the voter that, hey, these learning spaces are a priority, and we're gonna have a tentative plan to have them open
Right.
whatever year is reasonable. That's what I hear from people that are voting.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
just getting some normalcy back into instruction.
Yeah, I will go back to the chart that we went through, and then I know we have previous diagrams that showed some plug and play kind of items. So I'll make sure I'm better prepared for that Saturday.
I see him here.
Do what?
I asked if CJ has any information for us. I see you here.
You know, Steve and I were talking about this the other day, you know, the government shutdown didn't help things, and then you've got, you know, holiday season, and then there's been some restructuring, a lot of restructuring that's been happening at FEMA over the last, number of months, last 4 to 6 months in particular. So there's been a lot of kind of turmoil at that level as well, but I think that, you know, as I said last time I was here, everything's tracking in the right direction. You know, everything's loaded the way it needs to be loaded. Everything's in the portal, the grants portal to get all the right approvals. You know, we had a good conversation with FEMA the other day, get some more clarity on that 50% rule and how they're going to be interpreting that and where we go with that. And Steve and I have talked a couple times since that meeting. So I tell you things are tracking in the right direction, but it is, you know, as I'm listening to you talk, just bringing back to 2011, the conversations my board and I were having at that same time, just the uncertainty, because you don't know, what FEMA, there's no guarantees, and how do you know, I think I shared that with you last time, the biggest challenge after a disaster and bringing something to the community is how do you communicate all these different pieces and parts. You've got insurance that are layered up on top of the 41 cents, on top of what you may or may not get from FEMA. So I think most people are going to understand that exactly the conversation you were just kind of talking about is the exact conversation you need to have, just being transparent that there's a lot of unknowns, but here's what we do know, focusing on the certainty pieces, and saying that here's some things we'd like to do if the funding comes in, and it looks like, and once we get the FEMA obligation, once FEMA obligates funding towards these various projects, which will happen sooner rather than later, it's like they've signed off and said, yes, you dot your I's and cross your T's and do the things you said you're going to do, then we will reimburse you in the end. So you have some level of certainty once you get to that point. We just haven't gotten to that point yet where they've obligated the funding towards those various projects that have been identified at this point.
When you say in the near future, are you talking months or years?
For the obligation piece?
Yeah.
Well, I'd hate to put my neck out there and say one way or the other, but in my mind, I'd say worst case scenario, months on some big chunks of this once we get the numbers into the system and we keep pushing them to get answers, because they want to help. I mean, that was very clear on the call the other day. They want to make things better for Perryville, for PCSD 32. They most definitely do. So it's just a matter of us getting all the numbers in there the way they want to see it, so that they can do their evaluations and then come back with some questions, and we can provide some answers and get dialogue going and get to that point. But it is a process, so it's going to take some time, but it's not going to be weeks. I can promise you that. But months.
Is it realistic to think that we would get some obligation from FEMA by April?
I think you'll get some. I don't know that you'll get all, but I think you'll get some. And we'll also have good feedback on whether or not we're headed in the right direction on the others too. So I think there'll be some, if there's any concerns, if things aren't going the right direction on some things, we'll certainly give you guys a heads up on that, so that you have an understanding that, hey, this is less than 50-50, but this is going to happen. Or we're not there yet, but everything we're hearing is telling us we're probably going to get there.
Well, the reason I asked about April is I think if we have our election in April, if our proposition passes and we have some obligation from FEMA, at that point our construction manager has a better plan how to attack this versus having a major stage 2, because we don't have any obligation yet.
Well, I think we can legitimately go to FEMA at this point and say, hey, here's our next deadline, because we've been giving them deadlines. We have to get this information to the board by this date, this information to the board by this date. So we can try to draw a line in the sand the best we can and push them hard towards that next marker. So it gives you guys hopefully get you some information, or a little more clarity, or some level of certainty, so we say, hey, you know, you're out in the community, say, you know, we don't know for sure yet, things are moving in the right direction, we're feeling pretty good about it. Or, we're not so sure about this may or may not happen, but, you know, I wish I could give you better answers than that. It's just kind of nature of how that system operates. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, who's running the show on the backside, on FEMA front, and how long it takes for things to move up through the chain of command. In FEMA, there's a whole review process they have to go through once they even have the numbers that we, you know, at the layer that we're working with directly. Once they get the numbers, they have to go through a process then, and that's where, you know, our politicians could be really helpful, our elected officials could be really helpful to help push that along once we get to that point. And you guys have a great relationship with them, so you guys have done all the right work there.
We typically do a coffee elections dedicated to the April election. It'd be really good to present it, especially if we're getting FEMA updates at that point, to say
Yes.
where we're at.
Yeah, that's fine on that.
But even just another opportunity to show where,
Yeah.
because we'll be further along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
even
usually go to that.
a good crowd to say the latest FEMA update too.
Yes.
Well, the insurance settlement's very helpful too, because that's the question FEMA has for us as well. I mean, that's information they need to help them in their determination as well. So that was a good step tonight.
Okay, good. Any more questions for Stephen or CJ?
Thank you.
Thank you. Title program evaluation. Questions, comments, concerns? Mid-year data, K through 8?
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
I want to make this a little bigger. Where is, there we go. All right, so I want to report to you tonight our NWEA and iReady results from kindergarten through 8th grade that took place in December. The high school, 9-12, NWEA is taking place right now. Their window closes at the end of next week, so we'll have information on them that I can bring to you at the next month's meeting. So we've had some really encouraging results for the mid-year data that I wanted to share with you. And it continues in the same vein as we had from last spring's assessment results. We continue to see growth, and that's what we want to see. So what I want to explain to you is this is an iReady report. This is for our kindergarten through 2nd grade math. This line down here shows the results from our fall assessment. So late August, September results. And green would be on grade level. Yellow would be not there yet. Red would be below grade level. This thicker line above it shows where we are at the mid-year point. So you can see that we went from 11% in math on grade level to 40% on grade level in math. Also, really important, we lowered this amount. We had 40 students here who were not on grade level, and that was lowered down to 10 by mid-year. K2 reading, same thing. You can see the results here from the fall. Here's mid-year, and again, that red is shrinking. Also, I failed to add, these areas below here are the main domains that our students are learning. And so it shows also, and it's kind of hard to see those fall ones underneath there, but you can also see the growth that's happening in each of those domains. This is our elementary, grades 3 through 5 math. Fall results, mid-year. You understand that the gaps increase as we go up in age level. And so, you know, we would love to see those kindergarten results where we had very little red down here, but unfortunately, you know, that's part of what we're working on is closing those gaps, so. And then our reading, here's the fall results. And mid-year. Our 5th grade, iReady does not have a science assessment, and so we kept our 5th grade NWEA science measurement, since that is where math test starts taking place for science. And so this is the same as you've seen prior. And our 5th grade also showed growth. I'm having a hard time seeing those numbers up there. Our 5th grade also showed growth in science. And if you recall from last year's, they are by percentile. I can't tell what those numbers are. But this top line up here is the growth percentile. And then this chart I want to show you is a quadrant chart. And this side over here shows growth. And the y-axis shows growth, and the x-axis is achievement. So our 5th grade science is in high growth and higher achievement quadrant. So they're growing, but they're also above average in achievement. We want to see our results over here in this quadrant.
Ms. Nair, does iReady give you a quadrant on that?
They do, and I'm about ready to go to those. So this is K-5 reading. Now I want to speak to kindergarten. Kindergarten did not take their reading assessment until October, and so they only could have shown 2 months of growth compared to the 4 or the 3.5 that the other grade levels had. And so they are over here in higher achievement, but they're not showing as much growth because they just didn't have as much time to show that. But you can see the other grade levels. Growth, so even though we're not in the achievement area that we want to be, this would be 50%, this line right here. All of our areas here are in growth, higher growth areas, which is closing gaps. K-5 math are all above the y-axis, so they're all showing growth, and out of the grade levels, out of the 5 grade levels, 4 of them are also in the higher achievement too. I find this significant because we have implemented a new program at K-5 this year, but I also want to recognize our TANG math too, because this all didn't happen just this year. You know, what the kids are learning, they're building on what they learned in the past. But typically, with a new program implementation, you see a bit of a dip in your achievement, and so we are seeing very promising results. And so I want to go through this pretty quickly, but I want to show you this. So on the following charts, you did not get this in what was sent to you earlier, but I felt like it was important to show you. So this would be typical growth from iReady. At the mid-year point, 50% is what we would want to see for typical growth because it's halfway through the year. Okay? Many of our classrooms achieved over that. And I also mentioned the kindergarten reading was October to December, so that you're going to see some less growth. So this is our reading, K2. Now again, you're looking for that 50% mark would be typical growth. So any of these classrooms that are over that, and I want to point out our 2nd grade here, have already, some of them achieved already more than 1 year's growth, which would be 100%. K2, same thing. Kindergarten did assess in August, September, so you're going to see a little more growth here. Anything over 50% is more than what we would typically see. 3rd through 5th grade reading, again, I want you to notice these classrooms that are over 100%. and some significantly over.
What do
And-
you suspect is what with the 220%?
Well, those are areas that we are working on, and you're talking about those with those particular classrooms. So you gotta remember that classrooms are made up of different populations, and some of those classrooms may be co-teaching classrooms. They may also have newer teachers. We did have a couple of classrooms with long-term subs due to maternity leave, things like that. So, but obviously, that's something that with our instructional coaches and our principal leadership in those buildings, we're working on that. And so here was in third, fifth grade math. I just wanted you to see that by classroom, that we're seeing some really positive things happening there. Middle school, this is our NWEA results. And you can see our overall, this is all the grades for math. This was fall achievement, this is mid-year, and this is their growth percentile. Same with reading, same with science. And here are those quadrants again, so this is math. And here's the ideal quadrant. You can see 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. Reading. And science. And I also wanted to point out to you our algebra class, and obviously we know that these are our high achievers. But sometimes it's difficult to see a lot of growth with those high achievers because they're already there. They've already achieved highly. And so it's a little bit more of a struggle. But I want to point this out. Look at how much growth we had with those high achievers in Algebra 1 in one semester. So some highlights. In K-5, we are narrowing the gaps. So the number of students in the red in math fell from the 43 mark to 10. Students on grade level in proficiency jumped from 11% at the beginning of the year to 40% in math, 26% to 51% in reading. At grades 3 through 5, our math progress, we now have 40% of our students on grade level, up from 16% in the fall. I want to point out our grade 4 reading. It's already exceeded its full year target. The whole grade level has at 105% growth, and you saw some of those classrooms in there that were way above that. There's also a term in iReady called stretch growth, and we have some classrooms who many of their students, most of their students, have already achieved their stretch growth as well. What stretch growth does is it closes the gap. And iReady takes a long game about it. So the kids that have stretch growth and they meet it in year 1, next year they meet their stretch growth in year 2, their gap has closed and they are now on grade level proficiency. And so one of the things that we're talking about is that we have some students that we're really focusing on growing. If we can focus on those same students, if they reach their stretch growth this year, those are our students that we look at next year and try to help them reach their stretch growth as well. Obviously, all students are focused on, but those would be a high impact targeted group.
Do you attribute this to just a renewed focus on it by the staff, or the kids coming in better equipped? What do you think?
Well, I always attribute it to our teachers. You know, we do have some high quality materials we've added in the last couple of years. Also at the middle school, we added a math program this year as well. But it always goes back to those teachers and the leadership in the building, from the principals to the instructional coaches. And we are really focused on data literacy and really using the data to help us focus on growth, as well as high impact strategies for teaching. And we share those out in our professional learning communities. I think there's areas still we see for growth. I've been meeting with our buildings, our instructional coaches, and what we have is not good enough. You know, they're still looking and focusing, and here's where we can do this, and here's where we can grow. And I think that's a lot of it is the teachers who have really taken this seriously, and they have a drive, and they want to see excellence. So middle school highlights, I've already pointed out that Algebra 1 growth. I also want to talk about science. Their overall achievement rose to 61st percentile compared to national norms. Grade 6 went from 64th percentile, climbed to 64th percentile nationally, and grade 7 went from 59th to 63rd percentile. So that's a positive. Grade 7 leads the way in growth in all 3 contents assessed. They sit in the high growth, high achievement, that quadrant that I pointed out to you. They sit in that in all 3 areas. And so kudos to them. The other grade levels also had some of that, but I wanted to point that out because all 3 areas were achieving highly there.
Ms. Aaron?
Yes, sir.
Does each teacher have a quadrant with where their students plot out on there?
Yes.
Okay. Suppose, how long have we done iReady and NWEA?
This is year 3 for for NWEA, and then this is the first year we have started iReady at K-5.
Do your building leaders have a classroom, not the group of kids, but the teacher, a history of this performance? And then we've done a lot of work talking about trends, positive trends here, which is good. What do you do if you see a negative trend with a certain teacher's WEA data?
Always support. It's the same thing we do for our students. Always support, and what can we do to help them grow? Can we, within the district, we have our instructional coaches that can work with those teachers, obviously our building leaders, and there's professional development that we can always utilize, but our goal is to build our teachers and to make them more exemplary. And it's obviously not to catch them out or to point out their deficiencies, but to help them grow. And so that's something we're doing in a positive way. At various grade levels, there are data meetings. Some of them are one-on-ones with teachers. Some of them are within the contents where they look at their data together, which takes some trust, obviously. But that's the word I would use, is just support, and let's grow here.
Do you think if you or someone else on the leadership team just picked a random teacher and had a conversation about this, are they paying close attention to these trends? And do you think they could tell you, hey, this is where I was and I've adjusted these strategies and now I'm here? Is it at the, these in and out?
Mm-hmm.
Does a teacher know their data in and out, and how do you hold them accountable to knowing that so that they're the best informed to make adjustments?
I would say our building leaders are much better at that than I am. They're the ones that are meeting along with the coaches, with those teachers to do that. I would say those teachers know where they are and how their kids are doing. And we are working with them so that they see that too. I just want to continue to applaud our teachers. I know I was in a PLC today, and Dr. Dill, who worked with iReady for 10 years at Poplar Bluff, says she told them, I have never in those 10 years seen this level of growth. The first semester that we implemented it. And so just that level of seriousness and drive, and that catches. Sometimes, just like mediocrity can kind of be contagious, excellence can be contagious too. And so when they start to see, they get a taste of this, of success, and they're wanting more at this point. And so, yes, our teachers are knowledgeable about their data.
Dr. Jones, do you use this in building leader evaluations?
Yes.
these trends?
And they tie back to those building leaders developing their CSAP goals.
Do you see any improvement with parent involvement with the students or child, especially in the early stages?
I would defer to the principals to speak to that, since I'm not really one-on-one with those parents. I don't know if anybody wants to speak about the parent involvement.
We're sending reports home to the parents, and we've had a lot of good conversations with parents about what the scores are, what they need, how they can support at home. A lot of discussion about typical growth versus stretch growth and where their student needs to be. Parents are asking good questions of what can we do to support at home.
Will the parents' report have the quadrants?
It does not have the quadrant, but it has a prediction
Okay.
of if they are likely to be where they should be by the end of the year.
At the elementary, Dr. Dell and I were talking, we've seen more parent involvement this year due to switching back to letter grades. And parents know what that means. And so from the get-go out of parent-teacher conferences in October, parents know what those letters mean, and they're reaching out to the teachers on a consistent basis on how they can support their kids to get those grades up.
Mrs. Merritt's second grade reading just like stands out. We talk about how important it is to read by third grade, so what do you talk about Tang math, what do you see? Maybe the building, what do you see, is it identifying those
Obviously,
deficiencies? So-
it's complex, but I do believe our focus on this, it's a cliche term, but the science of reading and that early reading literacy, phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, those pieces that were not a part of our instruction 4 or 5 years ago, consistently. We sent all of our teachers to K-5 go to letters training, and that's a 2-year commitment on their part, and so they learn about all of those principles, and they've implemented that in their classrooms. We also added some really high-quality resources a couple of years ago with some rigorous, complex text that's, I think some people were hesitant about because it was oftentimes above what the students could actually read. But we have to give our grade level text to those kids. If we have a kid who's reading on kindergarten level in second grade and we give them kindergarten text, when are they going to advance and grow to be able to read higher than that? And so we give grade level text whenever we teach. There's just the collaboration piece between the PLCs, working together on the data and on their strategies. And just their overall commitment. And kudos to them. We have some excellent teachers.
Will you administer another test, NWEA or I-Ready, before MAP and EOC?
Well, we've had conversations about that, and we don't want our kids to be tested out.
Sure.
And so we will at some of the grade levels, but the upper levels we have determined we will not be doing that, which is part of the reason why we decided to leave the NWEA for the high school for January. We wanted some later data.
And then are you preparing, are you making any adjustments? I don't even know what I'm talking about. In regards to EOC and MAP, the way you administer those, have you learned anything about this and how you administer those tests, or is it just the same way all the time?
No, we're constantly making adjustments to that. Last year, we started having those assessments in the classroom, and Mr. Schaefer, you can speak up if you feel like it. Of course, that was a little different than last year. They were in classrooms all over campus, and so we will still do that this year. They will not be in one big room in the gym. But then, some of the other things we do, we talk about every year, how we can change up some things, if they need to be changed up. Anyone else?
Just that's awesome. Keep up the
Great
good
to see
work.
all the growth.
Tell everybody,
I will make sure to do that.
proud of them.
Thank you.
The next one.
Employment opportunities.
Just an update on our employment opportunities. Here in just a little bit in our closed session, we'll be taking care of several of those items there, but we'll also be adding a few to that list. We're very encouraged by our applicants we've been receiving, or the applications we've been receiving. It's kind of the hiring interview season, that's for sure, January, February. So we'll have some recommendations here in a little bit for you, and also next month, so.
Do you, I'm sorry, Mr. Hayden, do you have, I may have mentioned it last month, I don't remember. Do you still have that Excel spreadsheet that kind of shows us who the teacher was and who the new one is? And, you know, when we fill it, then we know it's filled, or if it's, yes, that, I think that's it. Is that something that you could include in our information each month? Just take a look at
Could
it.
include that, I just couldn't put it on the screen,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it's just easy to see where we've got
Sure.
openings and who's
Absolutely.
left. and
Thanks
like
to
that.
Ms. Julie. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Financial report.
You can click on that for us? All right, we have our monthly financial report, put in the same format that we've kind of gotten used to, that way we can track it. A little bigger. So first page does a deep dive into the revenues, and we have local revenue, state revenue, and federal revenue.
What's this through? Is it through the, I would have thought local revenue would have been a little higher, percentage-wise. You know what I mean? I didn't know what it was through.
Last week. And then, we try to always do a 3-year comparison. So it's good to look to see where you are, but it's super important for us to see where we came from in comparison to. So the very light green would be the current year, the next would be the prior year, and then that dark green would be the year before that. So we provide this in a format so you can see it kind of visually in a representation, as well as with the actual numbers. So we have the previous year-to-date amount, the current year-to-date amount, and then we also include the total that we have budgeted overall. So we kind of track the progress as we go through the school year. The percentages, for some things, you can say we are 31% through the school year, but revenues and expenditures are going to come out at different times of the year. It's not equal every single month. And then we try to do the same thing then with our expenditures. So the 3 big areas are in salary and benefits, purchase services, and supplies and materials. And so each of those are kind of tracking by percents of the budget. So we are halfway through the school year or halfway through the budget. So we like to kind of look at that in some areas. But some things are not purchased until later in the school year, or a lot of things are purchased up front at the very beginning of the school year. So that's not always a definite, but it is something, it's a number that we kind of look at to see where we're tracking along. In the same format, we like to put them side by side so you can see current year, prior year, and the year before. And then the numbers to see that. So the previous year-to-date amount that we spent on certified regular salaries compared to that year-to-date amount this year, and overall what we budgeted for the full school year. That's broke down into salaries, benefits, and then others expenditures. I hope this format has been helpful for you all, and I hope the consistency. Kind of, we've landed on something that seems to be an easy representation, kind of gives you a big picture, allows you to compare, And it's all very concise and basically in 2 sheets. This might be the end of us also tracking those tornado revenue and expenses because we wanted to kind of pull those out. They were getting, a lot of the ones that the vendors were like the MasterCard and things like that. It was hard to know what was our normal budgeted expenditures and what we were having to spend on tornado recovery and buying things that got destroyed. And so, and also that we were kind of looking at the revenues as they were trickling in. Trickle being the word. Hopefully that box is gonna shoot up real soon, according to Mr. Donnelly, possibly next week. But we will come to a point where we no longer are tracking this.
When you get that check, will that delta or excess stay in 4 or 1 or?
That's a good question. And if it's, it is a revenue that is going to sit on the books for a while, it would be in our best interest to consider investing that for a period of time until it's needed to see if it can earn some interest.
So once you get that, you'll probably come to us with a question on that?
Yes. Now do the financial report.
Did you want to give an update on the Flex TC?
So on the Flex TC, yes I am now, it took me a minute. So on the Flex TC, we are, we have taken down the smaller units, and we have seen a takedown in our weekly lease payments as well. And so we will and do have a charge that is written within the contract that was approved by the board that's an expenditure for the demobilization. So that's going to be coming through as well. But overall, that weekly rent is going to be dropping significantly. We will only be leasing the large Learning Expo. At the minimum for the 18 months probably, but we'll see. The metal building structure, that might move along quicker than we hope. So, but it is nice to see those weekly bills be less every week, every Monday.
How much has it changed?
It's dropped about $15,000 already.
15?
15. So like a 12 to 15
I thought that was a
range.
pretty good number, that made me kind of happy. That's why I said maybe we should talk about it.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder.
The board newsletter and all those incredible dates and information. Anybody questions, comments, concerns?
Basketball, and you think of this, when will you, this might be for Mr. Dryer, are we gonna lean on the Park Center again next year, do you suppose, or have you even thought that far?
I think
Mr. Dryer's nodding his head yes.
Yes. We're gonna have the current gym situation this year, or next year as we have this year.
But aren't they disposing of that floor?
They're keeping it for 1 more year,
Okay,
so they've been awesome and okay.
great.
And I think it's very fair to communicate and to be realistic that the metal structure, the steel building, we know that it is realistic that the time frame, it's not going to be ready probably when school starts right off in August. And initially, we thought, oh my God, what are we going to do? We need it. And then once we really processed that a slower, gradual move, which is something no one has got to do yet, would really be better for us. And so realistically, we are hoping October, November, a gradual move, and that way the high school staff can plan all that themselves and do it in a way that's really good for the kids.
Anything else? more motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Open session's adjourned.